And Cass, when you look back to when Gareth Southgate named his squad for this break, I think the 27-man squad is what he named. There were a couple of selections that raised an eyebrow, had some criticism. The fact that he's picked 5 right-backs and no out-and-out left-back, for example, is one that raised a few eyebrows. Also, the selection of Harry Maguire is another one, because, as we know, he's not had the best of seasons for Manchester United. In general, it's not been a great season for Manchester United.
No.
And like we mentioned before with Paul Pogba, you can't lay the blame all on Harry Maguire for that, for example. Should Harry Maguire, though, be in this England squad?
Really tough one, as in he's never let England down, in my opinion. There's a number of England players who have played better for England than they have done for their club. Well, that can be quite common with footballers. Internationally or club form is slightly better either way. Harry's had a really difficult season. They could never find a partner for him. It felt like Varane had come into the football club. It never looked like it worked with Lindelof. I mean, he even played towards the end of the season with Phil Jones in the same team. I think that was at Anfield, wasn't it, when they lost at Anfield. So it's been a really tricky one. They haven't found a partner for him. And also you can add in that whether they play a flat back 4 or they want to play with a 5, or play wing-backs and play as a 3. It's Harry's not had a particularly great season. But Gareth is very loyal to people who he really believes can do a great job for England. Now, Gareth does look like he wants to play a 4 going into the World Cup. That may change, but still Maguire stays in that team. So is it a strange selection? No, but the scrutiny will be on. We'll look at, a lot of people will talk, and we'll probably do it a bit later in the show. We'll talk about James Justin coming in, or giving an opportunity to Jared Bowen coming into the team. So people will look at them and go, okay, new identity, slightly better chances. Bellingham another one that could come into the team. But there's ones with experience that play. There'll be a lot of scrutiny on them if they don't play well, if they have an indifferent game, make a mistake. And Harry's at that time where, when he doesn't play as well, and his team, like Man United, lose, and if England lose, people are going to look at Maguire because he's 29 years old, huge experience. He's had a lot of games for Manchester United now, so scrutiny will come on him.
Indeed, and it looks as though he possibly will play a part as well in this game. So that's some of the suggestions that a lot of the papers are going with anyway, that he's going to be in that starting lineup. And I know Gareth Southgate was asked about the selection of Harry Maguire when he named that squad, and he said, look, he can play at the highest level. He's been an integral part of the England squad at the World Cup campaign and the run to the final at Euro 2020. He said, so that's kind of the reason why he's been selected, because, as you say, he's not let Gareth Southgate down. The problem is, of course, Cass, it always comes back to haunt Gareth Southgate, because he said he would pick players on form. Now, form-wise for Manchester United, it's not been brilliant. So why? That's the only issue you have when you're looking at an England squad, when you're going, well, hang on, 1 minute you're saying you're picking players on form, but clearly you're not. You're picking them on loyalty or what they've done for you in the past, and not on the current situation.
Yeah, that could be country form, couldn't it?
Compared to, I suppose, maybe he didn't specify
compared to club form. I mean, we all assume form is club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how else do you get into a squad normally? Otherwise,
that you do is
no
because
newcomers.
of club form.
Yeah, no
but
newcomers.
Once you become established, I mean, we went for a period of Mick McCarthy and Kevin Moran, who was, played for Blackburn, but also a Man United player. And Mick McCarthy was always Jack Charlton's main man in the heart of his defence if Mick was available. And he had, players like David O'Leary, who were playing for Arsenal, couldn't get into the team because Jack, the way he wanted to play, he wanted to have Mick McCarthy in there and Kevin Moran, and afterwards it was Phil Babb and others, that has come into the team. So Gareth probably has got a lot more loyalty towards Harry because he believes for England that he's done a job that's kept him in the side and hasn't let England down. So it's, look, think of Pickford and that. Pickford was club form, wasn't particularly good, but never ever played to, with England was always superb. He's had, I can't really think of any game that you can say Pickford's had a disaster and he's not played well.
You would probably have to go back a long way.
You have to scratch your head.
Yeah,
and
you do.
think
You'd
about
have to go through the archives, certainly. let's get the reaction then from some of the England squad about Harry Maguire. Jarrod Bowen looking to make his debut then, as he's been called up for the first time. He's given us his thoughts on Harry Maguire and says part of the reason he's in the squad is because he has this great presence when you're playing up against him.
I've always struggled against Big Harry because he's so big, and I remember playing against him so many times. I was with him at Hull and it was the same in training. He was so big and he just put his arm across me, and I remember playing against him, last season against Man United as well, and even in training as well, we've been close to each other and he's got that big arm across me. But yeah, he's tough.
So Jarrod Bowen says he's tough to play against, and I guess that is a reason why Gareth Southgate might be thinking bring him back in, because when he comes into that international fold, maybe he's a different animal than he is at Manchester United, where it's just all gone a bit wrong this season.
What are his attributes? He's very good from set pieces, for and against, so he stands out in that department. I think he's decent enough on his left side. He wants to be on his left side. He does lack half a yard of pace, but I wouldn't judge Harry on international football whether he's in the England team. I think his career is going to change slightly in the next year, because whoever comes in, obviously Ten Hag's coming at Man United, but what he thinks of Harry Maguire. Whether he plays football. You might have a scenario where he plays really well for England, it gets to the start of the season and Ten Hag isn't playing for Man United. Now what does Gareth do?
Yeah.
And that is a possible scenario. Yeah. It's not unlikely, because there's going to be a lot of scapegoats of what's happened to Man United in the last year. Last season was dreadful, and there'll be scapegoats, and Harry Maguire might be one of them. Ten Hag might go down the road of, not for me. That happens sometimes at club football. He's going to be second fiddle or might be on the bench, and then Gareth hasn't got one of his leading men, although he's not let him down. Is he brave enough, Gareth? Because it does take bravery to do it, to select a player that's not in the club side, if that was a scenario, and then selects him for the World Cup. That's a possible scenario.
Hang on, we've moved on from the court of authority for sport. I can't deal with that one right now.
But that's a possible scenario. Yeah. That can happen. And Harry has not let down England at all. And he might not, hopefully, the next few games, he'll play really well again. He might not be in the team at the start of the season for Man United.
Well, like I say, in some of the suggested lineups in the papers today, Harry Maguire is a starter.